So, clarity. I do not know who Hussle was, apart from three instances. I know that first he got in trouble a while ago for saying something that the LGBT alphabet boys didn't like, and they came at his head, which I was in agreement with what he said. So I remember that. That was a year or so ago on Breakfast Club. I know he said either he said something on the Breakfast Club or around that, and about his kid or whatever. Then I remember again he got in trouble because something happened with a valet and he hit the dude or whatever. And then I remember, oh, apparently like I think it was not that long ago he G checked Cardi B for something she was doing with the Crips and the Bloods or something she did. He said something she did was wrong. So those are the three instances I know. I cannot tell you one of his songs. I don't know none of his music, none of that. And it's weird to me the reaction that everybody's going in like he's Pac or something. I don't make that correlation. I don't. That doesn't make a connection to me because I get it locally in L.A. He was a big deal. He was doing stuff for the community. He literally bought the block. He bought a whole plaza, all that good stuff. But the reaction to overall Hollywood, maybe it's because he was attached to Laura London, and he's in that space too with Hollywood and all the other actors going with her to red carpet events, whatnot. That could be it. I didn't know they were together that long. As long as they've been together. So again, like I admit that I just don't know much about dude, and I don't make the connection on why he's being uplifted this much, other than the fact that he's a celebrity. Every day there are black men his age they go out just like this, and when it's one of us, we don't have that reaction. Now, if it's a cop doing it, our reaction is different. But when we do it to each other, um, we don't got much to say about that. I think the whole conspiracy element of it is black folks' inability to hold accountability for our community and the things that go in it. I think that it just makes us look dumb as fuck. The whole he was making a documentary, they got him type stuff that argument is just lame, Like it is what it is. It was some street shit from not necessarily on his part, but whoever else, who the dude who killed him, Eric Holder. I just don't like people that are buying into that, and it's prevalent from our community. Like my whole Facebook timeline, I might post a meme. It's like R. Kelly talking about, is the government killing us? Like, no. Like, that was us. And the crazy thing is, even if it was that, it's still another black man killing us, right? Like, even if a person is hired to kill us or do damage to us that is black, right? That doesn't escape them either, right? The black woman who was administering those syphilis drugs, that nurse, yeah, she was a black woman. Like, it was a government program, but it was still a black woman who had to have some vileness in her to be complicit in that. The black woman who was snitching on Dr. King and was an informant, yeah, it was a sister who did that, right? Or even the sister that stabbed Dr. King first. You know what I mean? Like, these people were used by the government, but they still was grimy, and it was still black on black crime. But I don't think that would admonish it, even if that was the case, which I don't believe it is. I think this was dude ego just got hurt. He told him you a snitch and some other nonsense, and told him to get out of his store, and he sped off. He went wild. But again, I don't understand the out not the outrage, but the whole like everybody's just like again. I just don't know to do it that way. Like I understood when Pac died and how that was and what he meant to people. Even though I wasn't a fan of Pac either, I'm a New York Negro. Come on now. I understand Pac's significance in rap and his poetry and all the other stuff. Big was a better rapper, but I can understand why people responded the way they did, because like a lot of black men I know grew up like he was their dad, like lyrically, like his music raised them. So I get it from Pac, but I just don't get it from Nipsey Hussle. And some people are saying he was better because he did the whole by the block, and he was, he had some businesses and he was doing stuff, and he was talking about changing his community or whatnot. Maybe he was the seed, because L.A. that Pac was talking about. Like, I'm not gonna change the world, but I'm gonna plant the seed that someone else is gonna do it. That could have been it. Nipsey Hussle, I guess. But anyways, those two things I had to address. The whole I didn't know him, and then I don't understand the response that he's getting, and I think the lack of accountability is showing in our community when we want to jump to conclusions and jump to conspiracies on how he got killed. And people are still going at it, even though the brother's caught. People are doubling down, and it's just like a lot. Some of y'all pro-blacks is like the black version of Alex Jones with y'all commentaries, man. Like, we gotta eventually address the issues about this in our communities. We hear all these arguments about educated lands and go back to the hood and do this and that and blah blah blah. And I know there was a story a couple years ago where a young brother was in Detroit and he wasn't affiliated or former gang. And I think it was a sneaker store he had or something like that. But he opened some businesses in Detroit and he got killed. And that sparked the outrage. Not as much as this, obviously, but that was a conversation that, had people saying, like, that's why I don't go to the hood. That's why I don't try to do business in the hood. And I see that conversation has come up a lot, too. You can still help the hood, but don't live there. And I remember saying something when I was younger to my cousin, who was about that life, former Cookie Ray Ray, about, I would like to, like, knock down my grandparents' house and build a big house right there in the hood, whatever. And he was like, you can't do that. And in my naivety, I didn't understand, but he's like, no, you can't do that. They're going to try to rob you. And I'm like, huh? And this is somebody who was about that life. So the idea of staying in the hood, like, it's weird. It's complex. It's not that simple. I remember Umar Johnson was on Jesse Peterson's show years ago, and I'm like, I lost mad respect for Umar back then. When a brother was admitting, like, yo, I tried to stay in the hood, I tried to keep my family here, I tried to build and do all this stuff, but he got shot. And Umar called him soft and a coward and a sellout because after he got shot, he decided, you know what, I don't want my kids living his life, so I'm taking them out. So he did everything he could do to stay. He wanted to purposely make it his mission to stay, even though his wife probably wasn't comfortable being in that environment, even though he knew his kids were going to have issues. He tried to do all that, and it took him to get shot to finally say, yo, we out. And Umar clowned that man and called him all types of names and shit and told him he was weak because he left. I'm like, what? I never subscribed to that logic. And I never really banged with Umar from that worldview. Like, a motherfucker had to take a bullet to say, yo, I'm getting my family out of here. And then you clown and you demonize that. Like, a man, that's what I don't understand about all these conversations we have on YouTube. A man's first responsibility, right? Because you hear people crying about not protection, this and that. I might do a video or put it on Facebook, the situation that G. Lowry did with his brother and his brother's wife straight up said, yo, I want you to come home, blah, blah, blah. Don't intervene. We can call the cops, whatever. But a man's first responsibility is his family. And I don't hear that often in these conversations. Whether it's, go back to the hood and stay, or whether it's, do you intervene in a situation of some randomness? Like, your first responsibility is your family, man. And if we can't get that solid foundation to be, the standard, I don't see solutions in this situation in our community. Because that's the first response. Your family is first. It's like, I don't take credit. I don't take serious a lot of these rappers like T.I. and others who want to jump on Kanye or jump on situations and be fake pro-black king leaders and whatnot when their family structure is trash, right? Like, you need to take care of home first. Your wife out here coloring her eyes and walking around like she need a diaper change, and you up here G-checking somebody because they wore Gucci. Like, go home and take care of your family, dog. Like, that's your first responsibility. If the house is not in order, you can't come trying to lead and do anything outside of your own house. That's just my philosophy. But I don't know what else I want to talk about. Other than that is, well, I see that, I think it's NBC. I'm surprised it wasn't MSNBC, but it was NBC that did some article about Nipsey being homophobic and this and that and whatever. Like, I know they came at him for something he said a while back about his son or whatever, and I believe in being truthful about people and keeping it 100 about them all the way through, but that wasn't needed in this time. And it's weird. It does seem like we in an age where if a bunch of people are lifting somebody up because they respected them or they were trying to honor their life, other people who didn't like that person feel the need to be able to talk. And I guess that's where we are now, right? That's where we are as a society. And a part of me is like, I get that. Like, when you got people honoring John McCain when he died and honoring the Bushes when they died, it's like, but you're supposed to be quiet about all the fuck shit they did too, or the things that were problematic, like, is what it is. We are in that era now, though. If especially, I think just knee jerk reaction if they see people uplifting and co-signing people and putting them on pedestals, and they're like, well, what about this? I think that's just where we are as a society right now. That's going to just happen. But I thought it was tasteless because it didn't matter. Like, that was his worldview. And one thing about that, too, is like, I know there's women who complain, the fake traditionalist women online who just woke up at 30-something years old talking about patriarchy and leadership and all that stuff. When these black men who do exhibit that are attacked on the gay shit or the non-traditional shit, or, you know what I mean? Like, they understand patriarchy from the back of their hand, but they still co-sign the homosexual stuff or the, you know, alternative lifestyle stuff, and they don't defend those men. They sit back, and quite frankly, they're on their side on that issue. So it's funny how they like to pick and choose when they want these type of male leaders who operate that way. Yeah, when it's the family structure and talking about providing and protecting, yeah. But when they talk about why they don't want their son doing this or that, or they don't want their daughter doing this or that, then you tend to fall back and side with the feminists and the LGBT on those issues. I just think that's interesting. Bam. But anyways, the brother's gone. Unfortunate. 33 years young. That's crazy, but that's standard in the hood. It's a lot of dudes. I could do a video, and I mean, like, I'm one of the people that, like, a lot of people know me. I know a lot of people, but we're not like friends. And I can look at the list of brothers that I grew up with, either playing football with in the high school system, who didn't make it to 30. A lot of them. I have a cousin. We the same age. His birthday's in March. Mine's in February, and he was locked in and out my whole life. Like, it was just since he was 15, and he died. He didn't. I don't. What was he? Maybe 32. Maybe he died. I think. Not even. But like, that's the standard. He was actually out finally, which would have been like his parole was done and all that stuff, and he should have been good. And he was at a party and some stuff popped off and he got killed. And I think before that, he got out and he violated his power. He got shot in the eye, and that's how he violated his parole and had to go back in jail for that last time. But this shit is standard. I have a cousin that was 17 and got shot because he was protecting his little brother over some nonsense. Like, black men, our life expectancy is short. And I do want to talk about that too, the vulnerability of black men in that era. I want to, think about how I want to relay that. I was watching If Bill Streets Could Talk, and there was a scene in there, and I was watching it with a young lady, and she said something. I'm like, all right, you get a little bell hooky right here. So, but I'm going to address that too, the vulnerability of black men and how I think some sisters exploit that in their selfishness. But anyways, brother's dead, young. It's unfortunate. Hopefully his life is used as an example to correct the behavior. I don't like the way I see some people in the media addressing it though, like Charlemagne. You can attack certain behaviors without demonizing all men. Like, I don't like the way he goes about it, saying, this is the fragile male ego and toxic masculinity, all that. Like, you ain't gotta do all that. Like, this fuck shit happens all the time in our community. I just think it's weird that it takes a rapper to get killed in this manner for us to feel that way. And again, we saw the same thing similar to what happened with Extension or whatever. Same thing happened. People were like, yo, he's a woman beater, blah, blah, blah. Don't honor him, this and that. He's a colorist, this and that. All that other stuff. So again, like, we are in that phase where when somebody dies that people are giving their thoughts and prayers to. Everybody else who felt some type of way about that person is going to chime in and demonize that person as well. So yeah, that's another example of that does happen. But we got to address the senseless violence and stop deflecting. We got to acknowledge when we do these things to each other should be just as valid as when the police officer does it. Yeah, we pay them their taxes. They're supposed to protect and serve, but the numbers don't lie. We do this shit to each other way too much. And the whole argument of bringing up that, well, every community does that, that's not an argument, yo. Like, we got to do better than that. Like, we got to address this situation. And if you want more people to do what Nipsey did, it has to be addressed. And or is it true that you just can't go back to that community? You can go help other communities. You can leave your family or whatever. Because we know that when a man gets married, he leaves his mother and father and he goes off to her community or her family and whatnot. But maybe that is a thing. Maybe you just can't go back directly and be there every day type of situation, or you have to hire somebody else to be there for you. Who knows? But it has to be addressed. You can't deflect. And this like this conspiracy theory shit. It makes black people look really bad. Like, yeah, the media's gonna do what they want to do. I haven't seen them trash him other than the MSNBC do the thing where he's a homophobic, blah blah blah. But a lot of people, even some black voices, are making it, letting their white conservative people know, yo, dude was reformed, dude was doing things, he was starting businesses, and I haven't seen anything too crazy from that end. But the whole conspiratory, the government did a thing, is just, it's not a good look. That shit gotta chill. All y'all black Alex Jones gotta relax with that. This was some in-house stuff. And again, even if it wasn't, which I don't think it is, it's still a black person being used to destroy another black life. And that's not cool. Similar situation. It was a situation happened in my city about 8 years ago now. And like, I went to high school with like 4 to 5, like a lot of the people who were there, I actually went to high school with, some before I went there, some after I left. But the running back on my football team, one dude was a senior my freshman year. He was a running back as well. And one dude was a sophomore my senior year. Both of them dead. The one older dude just recently died. He was like bedridden, paralyzed, half brain dead for like the last 5 years is when this happened. But it was just that simple. Like, dude walked into the club, the little restaurant bar, some dumb stuff popped off, like nothing serious, and he went back in there shooting. He hit like 8 people. He killed 8 people because the people who did survive, the last dude did die as well, men and women. So again, like, you got to address that shit. Like, that made national news and everything. But like, stuff like that happens a lot in our community, and we can't act like it's like the thing where black people say this dumb shit like, well, black people don't shoot up schools, and we celebrate that and we joke about that. But no, we don't shoot up schools. But we will shoot up a graduation. We will shoot up a funeral. Right? We will shoot up a Martin Luther King parade march. We do dumb shit like that. So it's like, we got to chill with the whole, we don't shoot up schools. No, we don't. But we do a lot of other dumb shit that affects us. And it's the reason why people don't go to the Juneteenth festivals, or when we, get together in large spaces. That's why it's over policed. And that's why a lot of other communities, when we do go to their events, it used to be free, but now they charge you money because they don't want people coming in that are going to be undesirables to the situation. That's just my take on it. I ain't mean to go off that deep. I'm just off the top of the dome. Didn't have anything planned. I just wanted to just give my take on what I've seen, just looking at social media, looking at the back and forth, the fights between black folks over the topic. I see Zaza got some heat because of what she said. Even though she was a bit harsh in her statements, she's somewhat kind of right on what she did say. Are we going to keep that same energy, knowing that it wasn't this, informant from the government went in and sent in to kill him type of thing, and it was just a person who got rejected and he came back off and he popped off. Again, stuff like that happens all the time. Go to any club in my city, a club that keeps having shootings. They got shut down a week ago. And they opened back up, said, you know what, we done with the club. We're going to be a restaurant, a soul food restaurant. So they just gave up on being a club because stuff keeps happening like that. And it's just stuff like that. And then we wonder why the other clubs be like, yo, no gyms, no Timbs, no T-shirts, no hats, right? It's like, we think those things are racist, but they don't want a certain caliber of people, and they should. And honestly, seeing that the club, the situation I talked about earlier, that wasn't a black club. That was like a white establishment in the downtown area. It ended up shutting down a year later, even after they got their license back and everything was good, because nobody wanted to go there anymore. So it's like, we gotta talk about these things. We gotta address some of these issues. And everything that people do to protect their own businesses and stuff like that, it's not racist. It's just them saying like, yo, we know what happens when y'all come around here. It is what it is.